Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 481. 481. July the 4th, 2018. July the 4th, 2018. Wow, it's the 4th of July. Thanks so much for tuning in. Of course, imagine lots of you have plans today, like me and everyone else I know. Go throw a few burgers on the grill, a few dogs, some steaks or whatever. Watch some crazy people shoot off fireworks, and then we go back to work tomorrow, right? Fell on a Wednesday this week, so that's not so great. That should make for a pretty early night for most people, I think. But anyway, hopefully you'll enjoy the day off and celebrate the July 4th, Independence Day. That's a pretty good day if you are an American, if you're a real American, not if you're one of those commies in the Democratic Party. They despise America and despise the celebration of America. They will probably, be my guess tomorrow, be protest all over the country by these America-hating commies, which is good because people will see them out there showing their asses and go, wow, look at those people. Aren't they stupid? Yeah, they're part of the Democratic Communist Party. And hopefully they'll drive even more people out of that crazy lunatic left-wing nutcase party, because that's what they'll be doing tomorrow. They'll be America hating tomorrow. That's what they'll be doing. So, let's see what's been going on. Well, I guess most of you have heard by now from the District of Criminals, Washington, D.C., the District of Criminals. They have allowed Imran Awan to walk. They allowed him to plead guilty to one count of bank fraud. This will be, of all the crimes and potential crimes that they had on him, this would have been one of the least crimes that they could have offered up to him, which is something you never see. Normally what you do see in a plea deal, if you've committed 10 or 15 crimes, they take the worst crime that you've committed. That's the one they prosecute you on, and they throw away the rest to get you to plead guilty. They don't throw away the worst crime you did and prosecute you on the least crime you did. That never happens, except in the District of Columbia. And who would have been one of the main targets of this fiasco? Of course, Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz. Of course, it helps, I guess, that her brother is a district attorney in the District of Columbia, the District of Criminals. It pays to know people, huh? They let his wife, Alvy, completely off. They're not going to charge her with anything. His brother is the same. It doesn't look like they're going to charge his brother. He walks. They're going to take off Imran Awan's ankle bracelet, so he's not going to be under surveillance anymore. And they say that he may only get probation. My friends, you talk about rigged. They let the rotten Reverend Clinton off. They let Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz and her little gang of God knows what these people were up to. But it looks like they were doing something with moving information to the Pakistani government. It looked like they were operating as spies, or if not spies, just individuals who were taking advantage of an opportunity. This guy was up to his eyeballs in all kinds of nasty stuff. Right along with Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz and her incompetent friends, they had a server completely stolen. No interest, I guess, in figuring out what happened with that. You just know there's a bunch of crimes. And Imran Awan, Wasserman Schultz, his brother, his wife, anyone else involved, nothing. Nothing will come of it. Not in the District of Criminals. Now, maybe some members of Congress are going to look into this and think, wait a minute, there's problems here. We'll see what happens. Where's Jeff Sessions? This has nothing to do with Russia, nothing to do with the election. This is totally different. How is the Attorney General of the United States allowing this to happen? People are watching. It doesn't look good. This is what makes people angry. And we're supposed to have confidence in the Federal Bureau of Insubordination, in the Department of Injustice? I don't think so. I don't think so. So what happened? Well, here's what happened. The deep state always protects itself. It's called self-preservation. It only works for them, not for you, so don't try it. There you go. Goodlatte has filed a subpoena to have Peter's been stroking us testify on July the 10th at 10 a.m. That's exactly the same date and time that Uncle Bob the Executioner and Michael Flynn are going to be in court with their attorneys explaining to Judge Ellis why they need a third delay. But Goodlatte apparently wants to have Peter's been stroking us come in so that they can hit him in a public session and let him try his act on the American people, because it'll be covered on C-SPAN. It appears that Peter's been stroking us' attorney has indicated that he would not comply. Now, I don't think he'll ignore a subpoena. That usually is not good. What he'll probably do is show up and just plead the fifth. That's my guess. Which, if you're a government employee, and we assume he still works for the FBI, and you have to plead the fifth, that's a problem. Shouldn't be able to plead the fifth. He's a government employee. But we know how things work in the District of Criminals. Totally different than the way it works anywhere else. He's not getting off the hook. Don't worry. Too many people are not going to let that happen. But we'll see if he shows up on Tuesday. I think he will. I just think he will plead the fifth to practically everything. Well, here we have, again, just confirming what I said 2 days ago in a video when I said all these Democrats, Democratic communists, who are coming out and talking about abolishing ICE, including so-called 2020 presidential candidates, Warren, what's her name out in California, Kamala Harris, what's the other nut, Gillibrand, all three of them potential 2020 Democrat Communist Party candidates for president, all have come out saying that they're for this abolishing ICE and all these other things. And I said 2 videos ago, I said, okay, well, if that's happening, it's one thing for, some 28-year-old, who just won an election to say that. It's one thing for some freshman member of the House who has no power or whatever to say that. That's it's just, that happens. But when you have people who are in the higher ranking positions to come out and do that, then it's something a lot more organized, or something where they got the word from the top, meaning the top of the Democratic Party. And that would be Tom Perez. So what do we learn today? Tom Perez was on, I think it was MSNBC, and he said that, he says, socialists are the future of the party. Yes, socialists are the future of his party. Now, that isn't much of a future, Tom. Yes, what will happen is that this whole left-wing commie part of the base, which is revolting against you, Mr. Perez, and your friends in the establishment, they don't like you. See, you're the reason that these people are acting up and are having success. It's because of you, Mr. Perez. You're the target, not Republicans. These Democratic communists, we're not the target. Not conservatives, the Republican Party. We're not the target. This is aimed at the Democratic Party. They're taking issue with their party, not with ours. They know we're not socialists or commies. They're taking issue with their party. That's you, Mr. Perez. So what's going to happen is they're going to generate a little buzz. They're going to get a few of these people who kind of run on the old Bernie Bro platform of a democratic socialist, which is, there's no such thing as a democratic socialist. It's an insane statement. They contradict one another. Democrat and socialist are contradictory terms almost. But what's going to happen is this far left wing of the Democratic Communist Party is going to rise up, and they're going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 election cycles where they're going to elect a bunch of people like them. They're going to get their ass kicked in general elections, and then in about 2 or 3 election cycles, the Democratic Communist Party will realize that these types of candidates cannot win. And in fact, they'll start losing really, really badly and the majority of the country. They might win 1 or 2 states. You could see Republicans in presidential years winning 47, 48 states. And then the Democrats will say, wow, we just lost 47, 48 states. I guess this whole commie thing ain't working out. I guess we better go back and find something else. Maybe we can go back and say that we're centrist again and reclaim the old Bill Clinton mantle. Maybe we can go back to the 1960s and claim we're blue dog Southern conservative Democrats. Who knows what they'll do? But I'll tell you one thing, they'll get maybe 1 to 3 election cycles out of this little commie movement, and it will go away because it will lose and get its ass kicked so badly that it will be laughable. If they go into 2020 and even beyond into 2024 with a hard-left, democratic, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, type of agenda, platform for their party, they will lose 47, 48 states, 49 states. They'll be lucky to win. They'll win New York. They won't even win California on that. They'll win New York. So that'll be it. So maybe Vermont. Maybe Vermont. So it won't go well. I can assure you that. So there you go. Tom Perez, the socialist of the future of the party. That's not a very bright future, Mr. Perez. Well, the Senate released their report on Russian meddling in the 2016 election. That's funny. They released it the day before July 4th. Why would they do that? Well, it's because one of them things, they really don't want you to hear about it. They want you to be busy thinking about July 4th. They don't want you to really know what they put out. And why is that? Well, it's because the conclusion they reached. Now, they wanted it out there because they want to be able to refer back to it. They want left-wing whack jobs in the media to be able to refer to it. So, yes, but the Senate Intelligence Committee found the following. It's like, really? When did they put the report out? I didn't know they put the report out yet. Oh, they did it. They squoze it out there on the evening before July 4th. So no one would know. And isn't it funny that their report is the exact 180 degrees opposite of what the House Intelligence Committee found, despite the fact that 6 of the 8 members of the Gang of 8 are in one of those 2 committees, either the House or Senate Intelligence Committee, which means they got the same intelligence briefings. They pretty much had access to the same witnesses, the same information. It's shared between these committees. How can they have the exact same information yet come to 180 degrees different conclusions? Because the Senate, and remember, we're talking about the 2 guys who head up the Senate Intelligence Committee. Remember, this is the deep state Praetorian Guard for the deep state and the Senate Intelligence Committee, headed up by Mr. Burr and Mr. Warner, the same 2 characters who are plotting behind the scenes to work with Mr. Deripaska's lawyer as a go-between to try to organize a meeting with Christopher Steele during the time that all these investigations are going on. So their findings are that the Russians hacked the DNC and Podesta, that their efforts were sophisticated and extensive, and that they were primarily designed and did, in fact, help Trump and hurt Hillary. That's funny, because the House Intelligence Committee really never came to any conclusion on the hacking of the DNC server or the Podesta emails or anything else. There's really no finding there. It's alleged, but they made no finding because there's no evidence of the government or any government agency investigating that. It's up in the air. No one really knows. It's alleged that that's what happened, but it's not proven. We don't know who hacked the DNC or if the DNC was even hacked. Sophisticated and extensive efforts. Absolutely, the Russians were meddling in the election to help Trump and hurt Hillary. Was it helping Trump when these Russians set up this protest against Trump in front of Trump Tower headed by Michael Moore? I don't think so. And all the other things that were done. This is a sham. It's a total sham. And everyone knows it. It's a joke. It's laughable. And it's disgusting. And it's just what you would expect from these characters. These guys literally suck. Man, they suck bad. Man, these are the people that have to be tossed. These are exactly the type of people that we need to toss. Unbelievable that they would come to this conclusion. If, in fact, it was the Russians, and this is all conclusive, and they figured all this out, then where are the convictions? Uncle Bob the Executioner, he hasn't convicted a single damn Russian for anything in the 2016 election. he took Concord Management and another company that was not even in business at the time when all this went down, along with 13 individual Russian trolls who've now just been identified as just simply internet users, not connected at all to Concord Management. Their attorneys have stated so, and they've told Uncle Bob, if you can prove that these 13 trolls were connected to my client's company, Concord Management, prove it. The only thing Uncle Bob could do is drop over 1 million pages of documents from Russian trolls' online posts in Russian. They're not even translated, which means Uncle Bob and his team have no translator, which means they have no idea what these emails are saying, probably. Or just 1 million pages of comments from Russian trolls. The only thing that we know is that there was about $46,000 spent on ads, most of it after the election. It had really no impact whatsoever. So to say that the efforts were sophisticated and extensive, no, they weren't. They weren't sophisticated or extensive at all. Where are the Russians who did all these things? Where are the indictments? Where are the charges? I mean, don't tell me Concord Management, because that case Uncle Bob brought thinking that they would never show up to defend it. But since they did, and now they've exposed that one of the entities wasn't even in existence at the time, the 13 trolls have no connection whatsoever to Concord Management, and Concord Management denies all the other claims. And they're saying, prove it. And Uncle Bob, the executioner, and his team can't seem to prove it. They keep asking for delays again. Ultimately, you're going to find that the charges will be dropped. The case will fail. In fact, in the last hearing, just a couple days ago, as I reported on, the case is so weak that the lawyers for Concord, the Russians, asked for the charges to be dismissed. It's very likely in the next hearings that happen, if Uncle Bob doesn't produce something, that the judge may just dismiss the case for lack of evidence, which means there will not have been one single Russian entity, troll, company, government official, or anything else that they've been able to prove did anything in the 2016 election that would have had any impact on the 2016 election, and you certainly aren't going to find that it was there to help Hillary and help Trump and hurt Hillary. There's no evidence, none at all. It's just more of what you'd expect from the deep state gatekeepers and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Warner and Burr, despicable characters both. Both should be castrated, stretched, and quartered, and then tried for their crimes against the state and humanity. Well, it didn't take long. I figured this would eventually happen. They're now going after Jim Jordan. So here comes the attacks. They've probably been digging and digging and digging and digging, and now it appears that they're trying to place blame on Jim Jordan because about 20 years ago, he was the wrestling coach at Ohio University. As you know, he was a state champion wrestler who ended up going to Ohio State, being a champion wrestler. He ended up becoming the coach of the wrestling team up at Ohio State University. And apparently there's now some people coming out saying, well, there's a little sex scandal, a little bit of stuff going on. Same type of stuff that's probably been going on in a lot of these colleges and universities, or is alleged to have gone on for years and years and years and years and years. The fact that Jim Jordan was the wrestling coach, he wasn't involved in any of this. There's no allegations that he was involved. There's not even any allegations that he was aware of anything. But that didn't stop them from running their first hit piece on Jim Jordan, that he, quote, he overlooked, or he turned a blind eye to sexual abuse when he was the wrestling coach at OU 20 years ago. So who's behind all this? Well, that's tricky, because it could very well be Republicans. Establishment Republicans could be the ones behind this, but I think it's probably either collaboration or Democrats that are probably behind this, because it appears that when you follow track this down, it comes back to Perkins and Coy. Perkins and Coy, the same people who represent the Democratic National Committee, the Right Reverend Clinton, the same people who contracted CrowdStrike, the same people who contracted Confusing GPS. That's right, Perkins and Coy. They are the people who ultimately are behind this story. So, who are they working for? Well, we know that they're under contract with the DNC and probably still represent the Right Reverend Clinton. So who is it that's really behind this story? Well, it's tough to say, but right now my guess is, because we know that Perkins and Coy were involved in it, it was probably Confusion GPS, because Confusion GPS is the people who write these kind of slanderous stories for Perkins and Coy, and Perkins and Coy typically has that done on behalf of the Democratic National Committee, or the Rotten Reverend Clinton, or one of her surrogates. That's where it's coming from. So they're going after Jim Jordan. He's a pretty tough guy, and I don't think he's going to sit back and take it. That's my guess. My guess, he's going to come out with all cylinders and put this story to bed. This is ridiculous. There's absolutely no way that Jim Jordan, if he knew about anything like this going on, he would be the last person I would think of who would be quieted about it. I just don't think he would do that. Just because he's not stupid enough to put himself in that position personally. He knows when something like that's going around, eventually it's going to come out, and if it comes out and you knew about it, it's not going to look good. So we haven't heard his position on this, whether there's anything to it or at all or not. I haven't heard him comment on it, but it's just your typical piece that they'll drop the day before a holiday so that they can milk it for the next 3 or 4 days and get as much social media out of it as they can. It's just typical of the deep state, of the left, of exactly how nasty they are. Very, very nasty people. I certainly hope Jim Jordan, and I believe he will, come at him full-throated, with a full-throated attack, and he should. Shame on you. Shame on you, Democratic communists, Rotten Reverend Clinton, DNC, Perkins and Coy, the whole bunch of you. We're getting tired of your fuckery, and it's just a matter of time. We're taking you down, taking you out. Politically speaking, of course. Well, it looks like Rodenstein's right-hand man is leaving to go back to the private sector. How convenient. His assistant deputy AG, Scott Schools, who of course has been the guy under Rodenstein who's been working closely with Mueller, Uncle Bob the Executioner, on the Russia investigation. That's right. This is Rod Rodenstein's right-hand man. He's going back to the private sector. And he's the guy who's been working for Rodenstein and assisting Uncle Bob the Executioner with his frame-up of the president. Well done. Glad to see you go. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, and hopefully there'll be an indictment waiting for you sometime down the road. Brian Ross and his producer both are gone from ABC, so they fired him day before yesterday. So this shouldn't surprise us. Of course, Brian Ross and his producer are the ones who came out with that crazy story about Michael Flynn talking to the Russians and all that kind of stuff. The report turned out to be false. They had to come out and admit that they got it wrong. Brian Ross was suspended and was told he could never cover Trump again. They finally reached, my guess is, over these past few months that's been going on, they've already probably decided a long time ago he wasn't coming back to ABC. They were probably just working out the money deal, you know, how much they would actually pay him to go away. So I guess they finally reached a deal, and he is going to be going away. You know, we don't know if he has any future in journalism. I don't think he does. But we'll see if Brian Ross pops up on CNN or MSNBC or somewhere else. They'd probably love to have him over there. And a lot of people think that he was fired largely because of that. But keep in mind, it is, of course, they just found this Senate leaker, this Mr. Wolf. And we know that Mr. Wolf was leaking to 4 specific news agencies. One of them ABC, and the person he was most likely leaking to at ABC, this classified intelligence, was Brian Ross. So it may have had also to do with the fact that the FBI is still investigating this situation, and ABC has probably got the FBI, the DOJ, or some prosecutors probably causing them some problems, so the faster they get rid of Brian Ross and cut their ties with him, the better off for them it is, because they know probably down the road there's going to be more indictments coming because it's an ongoing investigation, and there could be things in there that are possibly criminal, certainly embarrassing for ABC to have an association with Ross. So I think it probably has a lot more with the fact that they wanted to cut ties with Ross because of the ongoing investigation probably has a lot more to do with that than it does with simply with the fact that he got the Flynn story so wrong. But it could be a combination of everything. But either way, he's gone. Yep. It's the Trump curse. Hopefully the judge cuts Flynn loose on Tuesday, and it's Mr. Ross, Mr. Wolf, and all their friends that are sitting in the pokey. So everyone's wanting to know, is the topic of conversation is Trump's SCOTUS pick. You have the three anti-Trumpers over there in the Senate: Flake, Corker, and Senator Magoo. That would be John McCain, for those of you who are new to my channel. A lot of people are saying, well, it appears Jeff the Flake has already made a statement stating that he is not going to just automatically vote against Trump's SCOTUS pick. You know, unless there's some really good reason that he can find. He's not just planning on just as a protest vote against Trump. Jeff the Flake said that he's not going to just, try to stop Trump's SCOTUS pick just to be doing it. Haven't heard anything from Corker, but I imagine he'll probably feel the same way. Because remember, these individuals, they would like to think they have some career ahead of them, something else they would like to do. And you really don't want to be the Republican senator who cast the vote that cost the president his SCOTUS pick in the party that you've been associated with for all those years. Your name would be mud. I mean, anywhere that you go in your state from that point forward, or anywhere in the country that people saw you, they would be probably, wanting to beat you senseless out in the parking lot or something at Walmart. It wouldn't be safe to go anywhere without security for the rest of their lives. People really wouldn't be very happy if they just did something like that just to screw Trump. There would have to be something really good reason before they did it. Now, so Flake said he is not going to just obstruct to be obstructing. Corker, we have not heard from, but I assume he's going to say the same. But Senator Magoo, a lot of people are suggesting that Senator Magoo is hoping that his last act of defiance can be to be the deciding vote that keeps Trump's Supreme Court justice from getting picked. Now, he can try that. But if he does that, his legacy as a senator, as an American, as a Republican, will be destroyed. That will be the last act he does before he goes to his grave. Does Senator Magoo want that to be his last act before he goes to the grave? Now, he's stupid enough to think that would be something that people would honor him for. But actually, only Democrats might. No Republicans will spit on his grave if he does that. And he's still got a family out there that's got to live with that sort of thing. So my guess is that his family and people around him will say, you've kind of stuck it to Trump, you stuck it to him on the health care, you stuck it to him here, you stuck it to him there, but this is larger than Trump, this is larger than all that, this is about the country, it's about the court, the future of the court. You really shouldn't do that. This would be going way, way too far. We'll see what Senator Magoo does. We'll see if he even is in condition to vote, if he even votes at all, if he's still alive to cast the vote. He might be dead by then, or if he pulls the ultimate FU and tries to shoot down and be the vote that cost us the pick. That would be a very, very very extreme move. I would be surprised if he did it. I would be surprised, even for Magoo. I would be surprised if he did that. We'll see. There's a rumor out there, I guess, or they call it a story. I don't know if it's a story or a rumor, but that Scott Pruitt wants Trump to fire Sessions and appoint him. Well, that's a thought. Scott Pruitt's a lot like Trump. He loves the combativeness with the media. He's not afraid of them. He's a lot like Trump, and personality-wise, if he was the Attorney General, yeah, you'd be seeing fireworks, and he probably would fire Uncle Bob and Rodenstein on day one. I mean, Scott Pruitt wouldn't care about the political consequences. He wouldn't care. He's like Trump. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of the blowback from doing these things. So yeah, I mean, I almost would support that. Scott Pruitt, get rid of Sessions, put Pruitt in there. Maybe not a bad idea. We'll see. A lot of people believe that Sessions, behind the scenes, has got this super secret big investigation going with Mr. Huber, and that they've got hundreds of indictments, and they're going to take down a bunch of people. Maybe, but maybe not. Sessions allowed Imran Awan and all the criminals involved in that to walk scot-free, did he not? That wouldn't have anything to do with Russia. Had nothing to do with anything, the elections or anything. He's the Attorney General. He had to know what was going on in that case. He let it all happen. He's the Attorney General. He could have called up the U.S. Attorney heading up that case and said, "Wait a minute, you're not going to let this guy walk on that charge? Ain't no way. No. There's a lot of crimes going on here. A lot of things we need to figure out what happened. Some things that get into intelligence and everything else. No. This ain't going to happen." Sessions could have had a big impact on how that case went. Obviously, he allowed it to happen the way it did. Maybe Sessions has got some big game going on the side, underground, that we don't know about behind the scenes, but I'm not counting on it. If Trump were to fire Sessions tomorrow and put in Scott Pruitt, I'd probably be very happy about that, because I think he would fire Rodenstein and Mueller within day one. Okay, back to the 6-agency task force with my daily update on what I'm learning about that. So I found an article from the American Spectator from only from May the 20th or 21st, I believe, not that old of an article. And here's what we learned in that article from the American Spectator. The 6-agency task force was behind the effort to look into the server at Trump Tower. That was the first mission. Remember that? A long time ago? The Trump Tower that was pinging another computer, or being pinged by another computer? That was the 6-agency task force was behind the effort to look into that server at Trump Tower. That was the first thing they jumped on. It turned up nothing. It also says in the American Spectator that the 6-agency task force was also the ones who were behind the national security letters, which were used to get warrants, which we talked about. They suggest in the American Spectator it's likely that Stephen Halper was put into action by the 6-agency task force. Exactly what I've been saying. And they say it's likely that Halper does know Alexander Downer, the question I asked yesterday. That they say Halper does know Downer through their associations at Cambridge. That's exactly what I said. You look at all the people that hung out there at Cambridge and those think tankers. They're all in the same group. Steele, Breedlove, Halper, Downer. They all move around in those same circles. Very small circles there. Mr. Mifsud, the whole group of them. So it's almost impossible for me to believe that Halper and Downer and Steele did not know each other. They had to. And you can put Mr. Mifsud into that equation as well. Says also in the American Spectator that David Korn and Michael Isikoff talk about the task force and their book that they just wrote a few months ago. And they say that Brennan, they talk about the task force in there, and they said that Brennan never thought that the task force would be discovered, but it was by Paul Wood of the BBC. That's what forced Brennan to come out and talk about it. And they say here that he was not happy about it. They also say that former high-ranking CIA official is telling the American Spectator that Brennan's group were Trump-hating idiots and that they were also behind the Trump Tower setup. They are also stating in this article that Alexander Downer likely was feeding information to Brennan's group at Langley, the 6-agency task force. They're saying that Downer's mistake is not going through the standard protocol caused a rift between U.S. and Australian security officials. They're saying that Brennan was running an anti-Trump spy ring out of Langley while briefing Obama on Russian interference. That's what's in the American Spectator. Pretty much a lot of the points I've been making, a lot of the same questions I've been asking. I think Devin Nunes knows every bit of this. I think he has to work through the process. He's gone through the FBI, and he's gotten them. They've not been able to produce what started the investigation. But they've gone on record. It was July 31st. It was Papadopoulos and Downer. That exhausted that. Now he's looking at the State Department. And what all that's going to lead him to is back to Mr. Potato Head. And once he gets to Mr. Potato Head, he'll be at the root of the problem. And we'll begin to unwind this deal. Watch and see. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good and safe travel if you're going anywhere today. Enjoy your partying, and I'll see you back here on Thursday. Bye.